Right, this is a 10-minute video on comparison between the different rigs, the Texas rig, the Carolina rig, Tokyo rig and the drop shot rig. This is the Carolina rig and primarily used in deeper water, in reservoirs and lakes, where it enables you to get down to the bottom quickly, fish a soft plastic. This one in particular with a weedless hook. This one's rigged weedless as well, so you can get a worm there. And you can have you can select a different range of leads to get down to the bottom, and obviously want to fish as light as possible, but 20-30 gram lead could be used here. You've got a bead, a swivel, have the swivel with so it rotates, so so your trace doesn't twist. And this one's showing a hook in the top. That one works okay, provided it's not too weedy and snaggy. It's I'm just trying to think what else you can sort of say about it. Really, you just straight retrieve as if you're fishing a spinner. It will work. You can sort of bounce it along the bottom. It's a very effective technique. One thing you do need, this diagram here doesn't show a bead. You've got to use a bead there because that will just chafe, especially on a lead like that. It can be rough around the edges and that will damage. It looks like braid there, even worse. That split shot there is obviously just to keep the lure in place. You can probably fish it a bit weedless, have thread it up to here and to put the worm through there. So the next rig we're going to talk about is the this is the Texas rig. Sorry, and this one it's the same as the Carolina rig, but it's basically the lead's a lot tight to the lure. And basically it was designed, I believe in Texas. They had some man-made reservoirs in Texas, which they flooded them, and there was a lot of forestry in there, so there was a lot of logs in the reservoirs, and what they were finding was a lot of the bass like to hang out near the logs, so it's very difficult to fish and get and fish and present a bait. So this technique, especially on a weedless worm hook like that, enabled the lure to be banged into the sort of the logs and up and over without getting snagged too much. So it's a very effective rig for fishing tight to the bottom. You can put on quite a big lead there if you needed to get down into some deep water and present a bait. And it's a very effective sort of rig, and you can probably just wind it along the bottom of the lake bed, would be quite silty, and that lead would help to stir up a lot of mud, and fish like perch and bass and stuff like that, they would be attracted to all that. You could also fish it with a one of those creature bait things, and so they would take that, and then they won't be put off by the lead. But and also you can, it enables you to sort of, you probably want some sort of a trace there, like fluorocarbon trace, because that might get chafed a little bit if it goes through snags and rough stones and things like that. You don't want to tie your thin braid tight to there, because that will eventually snap and get some defects. So you can see here how it's rigged up, the worm hook. It's got no bead there, you notice. Sometimes you can get away with it and some not. I'd be a preference to put a bead there if that was me. And obviously this is a worm hook. You see he's threaded it up there, and he's just got the hook in here. There's no need to have any stingers or anything like that. So there's two techniques discussed there, and they all do the same thing, really. I don't know which one I prefer would be my favourite. I'll give a summary at the end of the video of my sort of top 1, 2, 3, 4, and try and give some sort of thing. This is the Tokyo rig. Now, when I first saw this, I looked at it and I thought, well, Jesus Christ, what on earth are they doing that for? You've got the other two rigs. They're sort of there's more finesse there, and you can more logic. This one's even worse. Do you know what I'm saying? But apparently, it's a really effective rig, and I believe it's primarily for fishing tight to the bottom on silty lake reservoir beds, river beds, where the lead is actually used to sort of stir up a lot of silt, and you would attach like a creature bait to it or your worm, and you'd literally just sort of wind it and twitch it through the silt, and the perch or bass, he would look at that and think, nice one, I can see a nice meal there, and he'll see the creature bait working away, and bang, he'll go for it. So the lead's primarily used to get it down there and to sort of just to keep it twitching on the bottom. But like that, you're going to run into a few snags and bits and pieces, so you've got to be mindful of that. But with the weedless hook, you might find that you might just be able to sort of to get over it. But I'd say a disadvantage of this rig is that it's likely to snag up more than the others. So I would probably put this at the bottom of my list at number 4. I would probably put the Carolina rig as number 1. And just another quick one on the attachments here. The lead is a split ring, so you got a swivel there into a split ring, and then you got your lead to the split ring as well, and your hook, your wormless hook. It's all to a split ring, so just to keep you aware of that on that rig up. Finally, the drop shot rig. This rig is very nice to use. You can use some nice light fluorocarbons. There's a knot you use to tie on this hook to keep it upright at that angle, to assist with hookups and things like that. You can fish all sorts of soft plastics on it, different size soft plastics, and obviously you can vary your lead as well. When you really want to use some finesse, this is like a good rig you can go to. But don't be surprised if you're using small little baits, you can still pick off some really big fish. It just depends on what they're feeding on. So yeah, this is I would say you cast this away from the boat. You can fish deep down. All these rigs discussed will enable you to fish deep, and primarily all sort of soft plastic sort of lures. And some will enable you to sort of work in the snags better. This technique won't work in fishing snaggy areas so well as where the Texas rig would. And as you can see, it's sort of easy to learn. Palomar knot up there, and I've got another little clip on how you hook up. It's important how you rig up your plastic baits to the hook, that you leave the hook point exposed and all that sort of stuff. And doing the knot is fairly easy. If you haven't done it, you sort of practice it the night before you go and fishing. If anything else, just tie up a load of pre-tied rigs so they're already ready to go. You just need a small swivel or some hooks and bits and pieces. And you can see the knot there, what sort of knot it is. It just keeps it angled upright like that. Has to be up that way. You'll sort of it's good for hookups on fish. I think I had a pike grab a tiny little lure. I was fishing like a bloody 6 or 7 centimetre little shad, and I was fishing for perch, and a giant bloody pike was just chasing after it. He was just so attracted to the wiggle of the lure, he just went absolutely berserk, and he got hold of it. Amazingly, he got hold of it. It really does work. But yeah, just on hooking up, it's important that you follow this rule here. As you can see, you just barely nick your shad or your worm or your plastic. Don't stick it too far in like this. If you're going to stick it in that far there, you want a blooming great hook, and then you can do it like that. But if you're fishing a tiny little hook like this, you can, even this one which says, yes, that's in a bit too far for me, you want to bring that out a little bit more. You'd be surprised how good these worms are at attaching to the sliver of a little nick in there, and they'll stay on for ages. So, Right, so leaderboard time. So I've explained the advantages and disadvantages really sort of during the video. Just as a quick summary, number 1, Carolina rig, because you can fish it deep, and you can bounce it on the bottom, and you can avoid the snags by raising it and lowering it. Drop shot for the finesse and the fact that you can, it's just a nice rig to use, and surprisingly gets a lot of fish. Texas rig is if it's very snaggy, and they use it over there in Texas. And the Tokyo rig for silty bottom, if you want to sort of stir up the bottom with your worm on the bottom. Not saying you can't do it with the Texas rig, but they're all very similar. They're all different styles of doing it, and just mix it up. Have several rods and just and try different things and different baits. Okay, guys.